For the last 4 weeks, I've been looking slightly ridiculous, simultaneously wearing screen-free wearable devices from Whoop, Polar and Amazfit to see which one I'm going to stick with. Whoop have been the leader in this segment for years, and they've had little to no competition in the screen-free wearable space. But in 2025, firstly, Amazfit joined the party with their Helio Strap, and most recently, Polar came along with their Loop Band. Before I go any further, this video isn't sponsored by any of the manufacturers, and all the views are my own. I bought the Amazfit Helio Strap at launch back in June 2025, but to have a rounded view of this segment of the market, I got a consumer month's trial of the Whoop 5.0 device, and I bought the business-to-business version of the Polar Loop Band called the 360 to do a triple header comparing the devices. In this video, I'm going to talk about cost, battery life, the app experience, automatic workout detection and accuracy, sleep tracking, and how the devices compare across some of those core metrics like steps and calories. And then we'll wrap up with which device I've decided to keep using. So let's kick things off with how much these bands cost. The Whoop is a subscription-based service costing £169, £229 or £349 per year here in the UK. You essentially get the band for free as part of the subscription, but also the band is effectively useless without an active subscription. The difference in subscription costs for the Whoop means on the cheapest plan, called One, you get access to the core features such as recovery, sleep, strain, activity tracking, VO2 max, and heart rate zones. In the mid-tier peak plan, which was my plan in this trial, you add Whoop age, stress, and health monitoring, and on the most expensive life plan, you also add heart screening with ECG and irregular heart rhythm notifications. The Polar Loop Band costs £150 here in the UK and is subscription free, and that gets you access to all the insights via the Polar Flow app. The Amazfit Helio Strap costs £100 in the UK, so it is the cheapest of the three bands. It's also subscription free like the Polar, and that gets you access to insights via the Zep app. There is an option to pay a subscription to join something called Aura, which gives you more in-depth sleep analysis and music to aid sleep, but I didn't particularly see the extra need for this. On to battery life. In my testing, the Whoop had the best battery life, lasting 12 days, 6 hours between charges, but it did take the longest to recharge at 2 hours and 20 minutes. However, it was the only device you didn't have to remove from your body to recharge it. The Amazfit Helio Strap was the second best for battery life, lasting 10 days, 12 hours between charges. It took the second longest to fully recharge at 1 hour and 40 minutes, and you did have to remove the device from your body to recharge it. The Polar lasted 5 days and 18 hours, but given the 15% bigger battery on the consumer version, you could likely expect an extra day from it, but it is still way less than the other two devices. However, it was the quickest to recharge, taking only 55 minutes to fully recharge, though like the Amazfit Helio Strap, you do have to remove it from the body to recharge it. Next, I want to talk about the app experience, and I'll start with the Whoop. The app experience with the Whoop has been great. Everything is laid out really well. You don't have to search far to find any of the metrics that you want. It doesn't take long to get the hang of the pillars that the Whoop experience is built on, being sleep, recovery, and strain scores. I also liked the advice the app gave me of an evening in order to maximize my recovery score for the next day. The dashboard section also allows you to customize the metrics you want to see most often, such as steps, calories, and VO2 max. After 21 days of using the Whoop in my trial and being on the peak plan, I started getting my Whoop age in the health section of the app, as well as health monitoring, indicating if 5 of my vitals are in or out of range. These were nice features, but I don't think I'd feel the need to pay £60 more a year for them, in all honesty. I'm going to talk about workout detection separately, but it is worth saying here that Whoop is the only device and app that tried to detect what kind of workout I had done rather than just detecting that I had done an activity. Here, it got a 100% score for correctly identifying running workouts and about a 50% score for identifying strength training and weightlifting, which it often mistook for things like rock climbing, jiu-jitsu, or wrestling. The Whoop also has some decent, what I'm going to call extra features. It has a vibrating alarm, which you can set to a set time or leave it to wake you up when Whoop thinks you are well enough recovered. It also allows you to broadcast heart rate to use the Whoop band as an external heart rate monitor with other devices and apps if you so wish. Leaning into the health side, the Whoop also allows you to download quite a neat PDF of your metrics, which if you wish, you could just look at yourself to have about a 6-month view of what you've been doing, or share with a medical professional. Next, onto the Polar. The app experience from the Polar is, no question, the worst of the three devices. I am an iPhone user and it uses the Polar Flow app, which has been around for a while, and it just hasn't really kept up with modern app design. I would maybe cut them some slack if they were a new fledgling company, but Polar have been around since 1977, almost as long as Apple. They are, by a country mile, the most established company out of the three tested here, so this app really doesn't have an excuse. The Loop uses the diary section of the Flow app, which is ordered by time of day by default. You can, however, override this and choose the ordering of the insights, but even then, it presents very basic information on the surface, such as highest, lowest heart rate of the day, cardio load status, percentage towards your activity goal, nightly recharge, boost from sleep, sleep score, sleep time, and lowest heart rate during sleep. Some things are scores, such as sleep and boost from sleep. Some things are just lit up notches on a scale, and some things are statements, such as cardio load status. When I tried to find something like heart rate variability, it is an absolute minefield. I eventually found it within nightly recharge, but then I also had to click on ANS charge within that. So the information for a lot of things is there somewhere. It's just not exactly a friendly or a well thought out user experience. The information goes from being very basic to very technical within submenus, and there are also some confusing stats. I mean, forgive me for not knowing what ANS charge means. Turns out it's autonomic nervous system, but the app doesn't really help you to understand what some of the more technical terms mean. The general presentation of graphs and data is very matter of fact, and it isn't a warm or enjoyable experience using it. The best visual experience, in my opinion, is when you click into activity goal. It then tells you things like steps, calories, but saying it is the best really is a pretty low bar within the Flow app. Here, Polar have gone with an odd choice of a donut chart to present data, which is quite hard to interpret, but you can switch this to a rather cold line graph instead, which is no more inspiring in all honesty. I really hope Polar get their act together here, because right now, the user experience for the Flow app is pretty bad. They have promised changes, but to quote one of the biggest tech YouTubers, Marques Brownlee, never buy tech based on promised future software updates. In terms of those extra features, there really are none. Rather amazingly, there is no alarm feature on the Loop, and you can't even use it as an external heart rate monitor paired with something like a smartwatch or other device like a bike computer. Next, Amazfit's Helio Strap, which uses the Zep app. Amazfit have clearly taken a lot of inspiration from the Whoop app in terms of app design and experience, and I really felt the benefit from that. Similarly to Whoop, it is very easy to navigate and it displays information well, and nothing has ever felt that hard to find. Like Whoop, it is ultimately made up of 4 sections: an overview, biocharge, sleep, and exertion. Overview is basically their version of Whoop's homepage. It's an overview of the key information that you can deeper dive into in the 3 other sections. Here, unlike Whoop, you can choose the key metrics that are displayed at the top, and just like Whoop, you can also choose the core metrics you want to look at regularly, like in Whoop's My Dashboard section. It also tells you about your stress, your heart health, your steps, and your calories here. Biocharge is Amazfit's version of Whoop's recovery, and the Zepp app once again is very nicely laid out here. It is very clear and the information is easy to find. For sleep, all the information I think you'd need is here, including the sleep score, your sleep duration, your sleep zones, your respiratory rate, your sleep regularity, and a few more things. Finally, exertion is akin to Whoop's strain, which tells you how active you have been. It gives you a daily target, your achievement against that target, how fit and fatigued you are, as well as more information about the activities you've done to contribute to that exertion score. Overall, 2 out of the 3 apps, the Whoop and the Amazfit Zepp, I found enjoyable user experiences. Whoop overall takes the win for me here. Their app just feels well thought out and finished. The Zepp app is a close second, to be honest. It's just lacking a bit of finesse and finish in sections such as exertion, which if you hit your daily target and get 100%, but you can also go way over your target and it still remains at 100%, which to me just feels a little bit odd. I think Whoop's strain scoring feels like a better execution of this, in my opinion. Polar just need to go back to the drawing board with their loop experience. I think they have the building blocks of something, but at the moment it all just feels inconsistent, a challenge to navigate, and confusing and uninspired with the way all the information is presented. Right, let's move on to how these bands perform as automatic workout trackers. As well as the 3 trackers, I used a reference device in order to track both time and accurate heart rate to compare these devices to. That device is a Polar Verity Sense heart rate monitor paired to a Garmin Epix Pro Gen 2 watch. The Polar Verity Sense came out top in my testing of heart rate monitors in a video last year, and I also wanted something to be able to manually start and stop workouts to compare how the screen-free devices did with auto detection. For time tracking, I scored the most accurate device, 3 points per workout, 2 for second place and 1 for the worst. I scored it 0 if it failed to record a workout at all. In terms of heart rate accuracy, all workouts were uploaded to Strava and I compared the relative effort scores to the reference device, once again scoring 3 for the best, 1 for the worst, and 0 if it failed to record. Starting with how they performed during 13 running workouts in terms of how close to the actual time I spent running on the reference device to what they auto-detected. Here it was a landslide victory for the Whoop band, getting closest to the reference device 10 out of the 13 times. Despite coming second, the Polar was the most frustrating device here, once not recording an activity at all, which was a 20k long run, and twice splitting a run into 2 or 3 separate activities, which the Polar Flow app doesn't allow you to edit or merge. Comparing Strava's relative effort scores to the reference device, the Whoop came out top again, scoring 31, but the Amazfit Helio Strap was a close second, scoring 29, with the Polar in third place, scoring 23. Across 7 weightlifting and strength and conditioning workouts, none of the devices performed particularly well in terms of aligning with the start-stop time of the reference device. The Amazfit came out as the clear winner, with the Whoop in second and the Polar in third. The Polar once again failed to record one of the activities at all. Comparing the Strava relative effort scores, it was a close contest between the Amazfit and the Whoop, with the Amazfit coming out just on top with 17 points to Whoop's 16, with Polar in third place with 10 points. I think I already knew going into this test that using these devices for workout time precision was going to be a bit flawed, and this proved to be the case, though the Whoop did surprise me with how frequently it got pretty close to the actual time of my running workouts. I was somewhat hoping that the overall Strava relative effort scores of workouts would draw some alignment with the reference device, and I'd say on the whole that the Whoop and the Amazfit devices here performed pretty respectably. When combining the running and strength training rankings for relative effort, there was only 1 point between the Whoop at 47 and the Amazfit at 46, with the Polar lagging behind on 33. Moving on to sleep. With regards to sleep metrics, it was actually quite nice to see that the sleep score between the 3 ecosystems weren't massively different when averaged over the testing period. The Whoop reported the highest average sleep score with 87, with the Polar scoring 83 and the Amazfit 81. Sleep duration wise, there also wasn't a huge difference between the devices. The Polar and the Amazfit were within 4 minutes of each other when averaged out over the 1-month test. However, there was one occasion where the Polar failed to record my night's sleep at all. The Whoop averaged quite a bit higher for sleep duration. Digging into the data, this was mainly down to just one night when, despite waking up at about 7 AM, the Whoop had me asleep until 8:56, which dragged the average up a bit. For sleep stages, I once again used the Polar VeritySense heart rate monitor as a reference device, but that was synced via the Sleep 2 app, which formerly was known as Nukua. I think that's how it's said. I use this combination because Rob, the quantified scientist, gave a strong review for accuracy for this combination in a past video, which I'll link in the description. I tested sleep stages over 10 nights and took averages for each stage compared to the Sleep 2 data. The Whoop got the closest on REM sleep, the Polar on deep and light sleep, and also sensing when I was awake. The Amazfit Helio Strap really didn't do a good job at recognizing when I was awake during the night. So if sleep stage tracking is important to you, I might have finally found something that the Polar Band seems to do better than the other two. Moving on to some of the other core metrics the devices collect and how they compare. Across the 4-week test, on average, the Whoop had me taking the least steps each day, averaging 8,790, which was about 7% less than the average across the 3 devices. Whoop also had me burning the least calories each day at 2,352, about 14% lower than the average, and it also had the lowest average heart rate variability at 25.7, about 8% lower than the average. The Polar had me on average doing the most steps at 9,963, 6% more than the average across the 3 devices. The Polar had me burning the most calories at 3,104, about 14% higher than the average across the 3 devices. The heart rate variability value was in the middle of the 3 devices at 27.1, just under 3% lower than the average. The Amazfit Helio Strap was middle order for average steps at 9,528, just 1% over the average across the 3 devices. It was also middle order for calories at 2,719, less than 0.5% lower than the average. It did, however, suggest that my heart rate variability was on average the highest of the 3 devices at 30.6, about 10% higher than the average across all the devices. So let's wrap this up with some final thoughts. It may come as no surprise if you've watched this whole review that the Polar for me is the biggest disappointment. The app was the least enjoyable to use out of the 3. It's the only device that failed on more than one occasion to register workouts, and add to that the splitting of other workouts into 2 or 3 separate ones. That was quite frustrating. Also, the lack of basic features such as a vibrating alarm or being able to use it as an external heart rate monitor is also a bit of a deal breaker. It also had, by a country mile, the worst battery life. The Whoop, on the other hand, is the most enjoyable device to use. The app experience is great, and it is obvious why other apps try to emulate the Whoop experience. Having to charge it only once every couple of weeks, combined with the pretty good workout detection, it's definitely the most frictionless experience. The Whoop's Achilles heel, however, is the price. I don't think I'd personally need more than the basic 1 subscription at £169, but I think I'd have to feel like the Whoop completely obliterates the competition to feel happy to swallow that pill every year. Which brings me to the Amazfit Helio Strap. My experience using the Helio Strap hasn't been a million miles away from the Whoop experience. I didn't find the app quite as refined as the Whoop, but it's perfectly fine to use and enjoyable to interact with day to day. The battery life is fine, not quite up to the Whoop level, but I'd say charging the device every 10 days or so is pretty acceptable. Its relative effort scores for workouts were only slightly shaded by the Whoop, and it's the £100 one-off cost with no ongoing subscription that I think makes it the real winner. It's the cheapest device here. So while in my view Whoop is the best, I just don't think it's enough of a home run against the Amazfit Helio Strap that I can bring myself to become a fully paid up subscriber. So for now, I'll be sticking with the Amazfit Helio Strap. Hopefully you've found this video of interest and or useful. In all honesty, it's been one of the hardest videos I've pulled together since I started this channel. If you've got any questions, let me know down in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. See ya.